Hello everyone. Can everyone see me and am I audible? Can someone just quickly confirm? All right, I can see two yeses. So yeah, cool. So how is everyone? I mean, how is everyone doing? How is the Sunday going for you guys? No comments. I assume uh, so far it's going pretty good. All right. So I can see folks are still joining. So let's just wait for a minute and then quickly get started. Oh, I see. Great to know, Savir. So, wow. So, any party or something at night? Hey, Azagiri. Hey, Priyanka. All right. I think that we can get started. So, yeah. Greetings, everyone. Welcome once again to the Cloud Clan YouTube channel. So, this is Sankalp here, and I'm thrilled to have you all join us today. So, for those of you who are new to the YouTube channel, let me give you a quick overview of CloudClan. So, we basically are a vibrant community that conducts boot camps on popular DevOps tools such as Docker, Kubernetes, Terraform, and more. So, in case if you're interested, be sure to check us out on our LinkedIn. Check us out on LinkedIn and our website. So, I'll just drop the links in the comment section below for your convenience. So, all right. Now let's get to the main event. So I'm excited to welcome you all once again to Cloud Clan CI/CD free workshop marathon event series. So throughout this marathon series, we have already streamed sessions on GitLab CI/CD, Circle CI, and Jenkins in the past. So in case if you have missed any of those sessions, so just don't worry. You can find them on our YouTube channel under the live section. Just feel free to catch up and explore those informative sessions at your own convenience. So, with that being said, today we have something special in store for you. So, our focus today is on Cloud Build. A powerful tool that helps streamline your CI/CD workflows. And to guide us through this exciting topic, we have a very special guest with us today. So, who is Rohith? So a very warm welcome to Rohith MR. So he's a senior DevOps engineer working at Hastin by Deloitte. So Rohit is a seasoned professional with an extensive knowledge in GCP, Azure, and Kubernetes. So also he has earned numerous certification in these domains, making him an expert in the field. So we are incredibly fortunate to have you, Rohit, here today. So Rohit, a warm welcome to you once again, and yeah, welcome to the session. So yeah, and like I'm sure our audience is eager to dive into the world of cloud build and learn from your expertise. So without further ado, let's dive straight into the cloud build. So over to you, Rohit.
Hey, thanks, Uncle. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope everyone can hear. So, hello everyone. I'm Rohit. I am working as a senior DevOps engineer at Hatching by Deloitte company. So I have around 5+ years of IT industry experience working with multiple DevOps and cloud tools and technologies. Also, it includes a lot of CI/CD tools, Docker, Kubernetes, with as Sankalp said, working with multiple cloud providers like AWS, Azure, and GCP. So yeah, today I'm going to present a topic on the cloud build topic, which is a GCP native tool, which generally those are working in the GCP, so they use this tool to build CI/CD and deploy the applications to different GCP services. Okay, uh, and I would like to thank everyone for joining the session. I know it would be quite difficult to spare some time on Sunday and uh, you know like spend time on these activities. But yeah, okay. Let me share my screen. I've shared my screen. I think it's visible, right?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So
I can see the
let's get
slides.
started.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Shankar, for the confirmation. Let's get started with the GCP Cloud Build. Yeah. So let's see like what is GCP Cloud Build, right? So it's a as you said, like it's a GCP platform where it provides fully managed serverless CI/CD platform that automates the build, test, and deployment process of your software projects. So I would not like to deep dive into the why do we need CI/CD, like what is the existence of CI/CD in the current IT industry. So I hope like in the previous session they would have covered the complete session on continuous integration, continuous deployment, how it works, what is the use case, how it is helpful us to build the software very fast and deploy it and release it to the customer, right? So I would not like to again go into that. So whatever the session today we are going to have, it will be specific to GCP Cloud Build. Okay. So yeah, along with the cloud build, we also know that containerization has been like playing a major role in the existing IT industry universe. So we know like a lot of applications from the different IT industry. So they're trying to make it uh, microservices from the monolithic architecture and adopting the Docker image to build their application. And we all know like how this is advantage for us to in terms of portability or in terms of security, in terms of building the applications very fast. How containerization has been played a vital role. So we all know like Docker is the very famous tool when it comes to containerization. uh, yeah, so even here in the GCP Cloud Build, you might have seen uh, when we are building the any CI/CD platform, we mainly focus on having some kind of like virtual machines and installing those tools, then writing YAML files, and we are keeping that particular VM specifically for building the CI/CD applications. But when since you have got the containerization, we can make use of that, and we can also execute each build steps with the containerization platforms. Like I mean, we can use the Docker image for each steps and build our own scripts, which will give us the advantage. So that will reduce our lot of operational overheads, right? So even Cloud Build also use Docker images in each build steps to build and deploy the applications, and it will improve us the speed and reliability of our software delivery process. So as you all know, like this is the main use of adopting the CI/CD, right? And We can import the source code from any storage, like cloud storage or source repositories like GitHub, Bitbucket, GitHub Enterprise, Bitbucket server, or your on-premise server, and you can start building your specifications YAML file that you have written uh, uh, across different platforms or the uh, programming languages like Java, Python, PHP, Node.js, React.js, etc. It also provides a scalable and flexible solution for building and deploying the applications on GCP. So on that part, so we'll look into that in the upcoming slides. These are some of the features and benefits that we get from the cloud build. It's a fully serverless platform by default, right? So whenever you create the cloud build, it will be a serverless platform. You just mention uh, what steps that you need to execute. For that step, like what is the Docker image that you're going to use, and what is the argument that you're going to pass. That's all. So everything will be taken care by your cloud build. So since it is a serverless platform, we also like have the along with the servers, or we can create the pools as well when it comes to having your own. If you want to have your own servers which is dedicatedly running for building the CI/CD, then that option also there. But by default, it's completely a serverless platform, and it's a like it provides a great continuous integration and delivery support across different programming languages, and building it and deploying it to different GCP services. Like you can deploy it to uh, app engine, Kubernetes engine, then storage buckets, anywhere, right? So any services that you wish to deploy. Also, it does source code management. Basically, we can connect with, as I told, multiple source code repositories like GitHub, Bitbucket, uh, and it supports native Docker. This is one of the very good advantages. Uh, when it supports native Docker, you can use the existing Docker images present in the GCP registries, or you can also customize it and push it to your own repository and connect it to the cloud build. And it integrates with multiple GCP services. We can push all the cloud build logs to Stackdriver logging and cloud storage. Also, you can manage your logs and artifacts, and yeah, deploying to GKE Cloud Run, right? And it also does the package vulnerability scanning for vulnerable images. You can use the multiple custom tools to scan your Docker images. You can use the tools like Aquatree, or there are I think there are multiple tools available, right? So you can use that. And multi-language support, you can use uh, build tools like Maven, Gradle, and across with multiple programming languages. Then you can also not only Kubernetes kind of architecture. It can deploy to VMs, serverless like Cloud Functions, Firebase, GKE, anything it can deploy. And I was talking about default pools and the private pools. This is basically helpful whenever you want to have your own worker node machine instead of the automated worker node pools that's been provisioned by the cloud build, right? That's one use case. And second use case, I would say, like if you want to have the very large uh, capacity applications which requires multiple number of CPUs and memories. So in that case, if you want to have more displays as well, right? So that time you can have these private pools. And one more advantage is if you want to deploy your applications to private GK cluster. So by default, like whatever the cloud build that you use, that will not be integrated with any kind of VPCs or networking, cloud networking options. If you use private pools, basically you can connect with, you can peer with any network, uh, so that you can connect to your GK cluster with private link, and you can deploy your applications. These are some of the supported interfaces on Cloud Build. You can use Cloud Console. You can just search for Cloud Build, and you'll get the triggers page. You can start building it. So there you'll have a lot of options. We'll look into that later. We'll see the live demo session on that. I can explain. You can also connect through Cloud SDK, REST API, then Cloud Build GitHub app. So this is something that very important when you want to connect your source code repositories from the Cloud Build app. So if you want to connect your source code repositories, you can install the Cloud Build app on that particular source code server, so that your GCP Cloud Build will have full access to that source code, and it can do any operations like read and write operations. So it will detect the changes whenever a developer pushes the code, right? So it will also support Bitbucket app. Then we have the Cloud Build Trigger API. Basically, using programming also we can connect to this and trigger the APIs. It will work with different use cases, right? So yeah, and let's see how does Cloud Build work. Okay, so yeah, so we have your source code repository, which is part of the configuration. Basically, whatever the dev team starts developing the application, start writing the code in their local, right? So that source code uh, can be pushed to some source code repositories like GitHub, Bitbucket. So that will be like part of your cloud build, or the cloud build configurations. Along with the code, they should also write something like cloud build YAML file. Basically, that will have the uh, each and every steps that is going to be performed in your triggers, right? So whenever you trigger the pipeline, so what steps that you need to run in your CI/CD. So that will be completely written step by step in the cloud build configuration YAML file. So we famously call it as cloud build.yaml file. You can name it with any names. And so we have the trigger. Basically, whenever developer pushes the code, it can be automatically triggered the pipeline, or you can manually trigger the pipeline. So that depends on what configurations that you are going to do. Then we have the build. So basically, build will have a lot of steps, right? So it can be Maven build, Gradle build, or Node.js build. And if you want to have those build outputs to be pushed into some other GCP resources, so that is also possible. Or if you want to copy some of the build artifacts into the next step, so like Docker build, so even that is possible. So that uh, yeah, and we also have that deploy. So we can, as I told, we can deploy the application to App Engine, GKE, Cloud Functions, right? So that step we can write in the cloud build.yaml file. So, and monitoring and logging, we can integrate multiple GCP tools like Stackdriver for having the build logs. Also, we can push the build logs to GitHub. Uh, yeah. So this is one of the sample cloud build triggers architecture diagram. So basically source code, as I told, it can be like your GitHub, Bitbucket, or your cloud hosted GCP source code repositories. Once it is pushed to GitHub, then it will trigger the pipeline. Cloud build will have the specification YAML file that will have all the steps that needs to be performed. Uh, so let's say if we consider GKE deployment here, right? So we can deploy to many other GCP resources. So to deploy the applications to GKE, then mainly requires to have the Docker containers, right? So that build will happen, and Docker image will be pushed to container registry. Okay, once it is pushed, then we'll have the build deploy steps that is written in the cloud build. uh, we can also have the Helm chart or Kubernetes manifest file like deployment YAML, service YAML files in our source code repositories. So basically, Cloud Build will take the latest Docker image, and it changes the image tag in the deployment YAML or your Helm charts, and pushes it to like you know it will just deploy the applications by running the helm command or the kubectl apply command, so that the applications will be deployed to Kubernetes engine. Yeah. So this is the main component to run your cloud build triggers. We should have the build config file, which is famously called as cloudbuild.yaml file. So on the right hand side, you can see the cloudbuild.yaml file is present along with the source code repositories, right? Along with the code that your developer has written. So this build config file, it contains a set of instructions for Cloud Build to perform task based on specification given by the user. For example, as I said, right? So if you build your Docker image, then you should command like Docker build hyphen then image tag, all those things. So we'll go through the YAML file in the upcoming slides. Then so it can be in YAML or JSON syntax, this file. So we mostly use YAML file. If you're very much comfortable with JSON, we can write the specification file in the JSON syntax as well. It uses Docker image to execute builds. For example, if you want to build the Docker image, you can just use the Docker Docker image basically, which is stored in your GCS, or I mean GCR image registry, right? So you'll get that publicly available Docker images. You just have to mention which image you have to choose, and that will be downloaded, and it will start running as per the arguments or the entry points that you have defined in the YAML file. And so you can write your own custom build steps as well. Basically, if you want to modify the Docker images, existing Docker images as per your configuration, right? So in our project, we had one requirement whenever we are building the Maven, right? So that time we had the requirement to do the sonar scan as well, and we have to push the sonar reports to the sonar server. So all these tasks should be done in the one single Docker image. So in that case, basically we took the source code repositories that was available for Maven Docker image, and we edited it based on our requirements, and we added all those steps that are should be present to scan the sonar scan after doing the Maven build, then reports generation, whether it has to fail or pass. All those steps we did. We just customized it. So I'm just telling the use case to make you guys understand. Yeah, and we can use the steps field in the YAML file. I think I'll show that in the YAML file. Uh, so this is one of the simple cloudbuild.yaml file that we have. So here we have the steps, so which is the start of your YAML file. Then we have the name field, which basically tells you know what Docker images you want to do, right? So let's say if you want to do the Maven build, then we specifies here the Maven registry URI, right? So if you just open this in a different tab, you'll be able to see the Maven Docker image. Okay, this is a like public repository, but if you're having access to GCP, then it will mostly show you in your project, right? So by default, I've given it as Maven latest image, right? And we can pass the arguments. So while running the Docker container, we'll have to pass the arguments, right? So what configurations it has to perform. So basically now we'll have to do the Maven build. So I've given it as install. It will run the Maven install command. Whenever this step will be executed, it will run the Maven install command. And for Docker, I have given these arguments: Docker build -t, and this is the uh, image repository URI, which in which you want to form your Docker image and push it to the image registry. Right. So let's go through this. Before that, I'll just complete the slides. And we have this arguments field. Then we can also pass the env field if you want to pass any env variables to your application. We have the dir field, which is a uh, directory field basically. So by default, whenever your container is executed in the cloud build worker nodes, right, so it will have the slash workspace as the default mounted directory. So if you want to change it to a different directory, then you can specify that in the build steps. Also, we can specify the timeout field. If you haven't specified any timeout field, then it will run your container for any number of time until your pipeline is failed or passed. Then we can use the volume. So let's say you have one requirement where you're performing your build execution, right? Maybe like maven install. And if you want to pass these working directory to the next step when you're doing the Docker build, so you can attach the volume between these two execution steps, and you can have the common shared volumes so that uh, uh, basically your directory will be available throughout the pipeline execution. All these steps it will be available. And yeah, so this is quite important, substituting the variables. uh, so while you're building the applications using cloud build, if you want to substitute any variables uh, that are defined or like that are common across all of your builds or the all of your microservices builds, so that time you can mention it as a uh, variables, right? So we have like a lot of default substitutions that are available. So whenever you run your cloud build jobs, these are some of the default substitutions that are available. So let's say if you give a dollar project ID, right, into something, then you don't need to specify the project ID in your value section. You just have to mention this dollar project ID in the YAML file, and your cloud will be automatically taken the value for project ID where the cloud build is running automatically. And along with this, we have all these variables, right? You can make use of this whenever you want to build some kind of common or refactoring code that will be useful across the projects or across building multiple microservices. Along with the default substitutions, we also have user defined substitutions, using which, let's say, there are few variables which needs to be passed, but it is not part of your default substitutions. For example, you want to deploy the applications to GK, then you'll have to specify which zone your GK is being deployed, right? So that time you can just mention this env variable. This is the variable name. Cloud SDK compute zone is equal to this is the format like dollar in the flower bracket underscore zone, right? This underscore zone you'll have to mention in the substitution variable that are present, as you can see right here. So these things we'll see in the demo section. And yeah, so this is a cloudbuild.yaml file that we have. So let me just go through this. Yeah, yeah, so basically it has the steps, and it does the maven install. We have given the arguments as install. Then it does the docker build. Okay, so it does the Docker build. We pass the argument as -t to tag our Docker image. So as I told, right, this project ID, this is the variable which is part of default substitutions, and the value will be taken automatically. And trigger name, we have given, we are going to tag our Docker image with the trigger name and short SHA. So this is basically shorten your commit ID and take it as a tag for your Docker image, so that every time we build the Docker image, it will have the new Docker image tag. Then we'll push the same Docker image to the repository. Okay, and after that we do the kubectl deployment by changing the docker image to the deployment that we specify, and it will deploy the applications to GKE. So looking at the env variable, so these are the customized or the user defined env variables. This clouds SDK compute zone, right? Yeah, I can show you in the triggers. So this is one trigger. It's already created. I'll just show you like how did I give you the uh, substitution variables, right? So this is a container name in which container the image should be deployed, right? So you can see here container name. So this is a Docker image ID and Cloud SDK compute zone. Zone. Yeah. So US Central 1C is a zone where our GK cluster is being deployed. Okay. And yes. So let me go back to the, yeah. So I'll show you the demo. Before that, I'll just complete the PPT part, and we can also configure CloudBuild notifications and the manual approval. So notifications basically whenever the build starts and whenever the build it's in pending state, or if it is passed or failed, your team should be notified, right? Like your development team should know that whatever the commits that I made, what is the status of that build. Uh, so that time we can configure the notifications on different status, like it might be in pending or in progress, then passed, failed. So all those different status we can configure the build notifications. We can configure these to multiple tools like Slack or Google Chat, then Teams, Outlook. We can also send the mail by using the SMTP configurations. So for that, like we'll be using CloudBuild notifiers. So you can refer the documentation, so that has some of the custom steps that needs to be performed to enable the CloudBuild notifications. And we need to have the gated release most of the time. So whenever we are deploying the applications from dev environment to the higher environments, right, like QA or production, so we can't simply deploy the application. So we'll have to make sure that the build is properly deployed in the lower environments, and it's running properly. It's running without any issues, and it's tested with performance testing or the functional testing. Everything has passed, and that particular commit ID can be released to the customer, right? So we can't simply run the deployment to the higher environment. So before that, we need to have this gated release. So this gated release will have the approval process basically. So whenever the pipeline goes through this approval process, right? So the approval request can be sent to your manager so that he can review what release version needs to be deployed to the higher environments, whether it's a proper one. After that, like he can approve or reject the build, right? So yeah, so you need to have the cloud build editor role if you want to enable the approval, and if you want to approve the build or reject the build, then you should have the cloud build approval role. So you can see here, right? So this is how we can enable the approval. So require approval before build executes. If you enable this, then your pipeline will have the approval uh, approval workflow before triggering your pipeline. Yeah, let's see the demo part. So let me just get started with showing you the GK cluster that I've created. So this one very simple GK cluster, Google Kubernetes Engine cluster that I've created with number of nodes 3. And let's go to workloads. In the default namespace, I have deployed this Hello Spring Boot application. It's a sample application, uh, and it is being deployed. So currently, it is running with this Docker image. Yeah, and let me show you the source code repository. Right? So this is my public GitHub repository where we have this CloudBuild as repository, and inside this we have the sample Hello World Spring Boot application. And so along with this, we also have the Docker file cloudbuild.yaml and the pom.xml, which is for Maven trigger. Coming to the Docker file, we just have this. We're just taking this as the base image for building our Docker layers. We're using OpenJDK, and we are copying uh, Spring Boot jar file, which has been built after running your Maven build, and to the entry point. So whenever we run the container, right? So basically, it will run this command java-jar and this jar file, whatever it has built. Okay, and let's see the cloudbuild.ml. Yeah, so I think, yeah. So this is the YAML file we are going to use in the trigger. Okay, so this is the CloudBuild page, right? So whenever you logged into GCP console, if you just search for CloudBuild, you'll be able to land into this page. Okay, so in this section on the left hand side, we have this dashboard. It will show you the overall, how many microservices or whatever services, the triggers it has been triggered and built, what is the success rate, build history, then average duration, and pass only fail, the average statistics it will show. And on the history, it will show you the previous build, which is passed and failed. Okay, so repositories, yeah. So here you can connect multiple repositories. On the first gen, I've connected my repositories. That's called. If you click this, it will show you the GitHub repositories that I showed in the previously, and we can connect through, by clicking this connect repositories, and we have this option. Basically, I've chosen region as global, and we all we have all these options like GitHub. Uh, this will basically what it does. So if you select this option, it will install the CloudBuild app in that GitHub repositories. Okay, and we can also choose GitHub Enterprise, Bitbucket Server, Data Center, and Bitbucket Cloud. Then we can continue. So we just need to authenticate. I think it's already done. So if not, it will ask you to give the full permissions to that particular GitHub repositories so that your cloud build will have the admin access. Okay. So I think this cloud build we have already chosen. So let me choose some other repositories. Okay, understand and connect. So okay, and create a trigger. Okay. So while creating trigger, okay, let me just show you the existing trigger so that it will be more relevant. Yeah, so this is the existing trigger which I used. So we can give the name and region. We can give any region, and also we can specify the tags based on the environments or based on the services front end, back end. If you want to differentiate your pipeline, then you can give these tags. Then on the event, basically you are giving on which event your pipeline will be triggered. So right now I have given it as a push to a branch. So whenever there will be push to our master branch, the pipeline will be triggered. Or you can specify push new tag whenever there is a new tag is created, then trigger this pipeline, or based on the pull request, right? So whenever pull request is created, or in response to uh, yeah, manual invocation, if you want to like only manually trigger this pipeline. You do not want it to be automated. The trigger automation, if you do not want, then you can choose this manual invocation. Then pops up message, that also you can connect. Webhook also, you have that option. So right now for this use case, we'll use this push to a branch, and we'll use this cloud build repositories that I showed you previously, and master branch. Okay. uh, and we have this cloud build configuration file. So you can also, basically this is to specify from where your configuration file is coming. If you specify auto detected, then from this repository it will choose the cloudbuild.yaml file automatically. Okay. So right now I've just chosen this option, basically cloud build configuration file YAML or JSON, and Docker file, build packs. These also can specify location, right? So location, it can be repository. If you specify repositories, then by default it will take the cloudbuild.yaml from this location. And here I just specified inline. So you'll have this editor option where you can write the cloudbuild.yaml file and specify it. So right now I'll choose this inline option instead of repository. So as I told, we also have these substitution variables in the advanced section. So I am specifying here like the container name, which container the image should be deployed, and which GK cluster, and what is the GK cluster zone, right? So whenever you specify these, right, variables, always make sure that you have this underscore first. If you do not specify that, then it will show you error. So it should start with underscore and the variable name. And while specifying this in the cloudbuild.yaml file, so yeah, specify it as a uh, dollar and flower bracket with this notification with this you should specify your variables. Okay. And we also have this approval button. As I said, if you just check mark this, then you can, whenever your pipeline runs, it will go through approval process, and once it is approved or rejected, the next workflow will get started. So let me save this. I think it's already saved. Yeah. And let me trigger the pipeline. So before that, I'll just check this previous status. It was failed. Okay. So let me just trigger this pipeline manually. So you have this run option. If you click this, it will show the run trigger option. And yeah, you can, if you want to change the branch, you can change at this stage as well. And if you want to change any variables, you can do that. So right now everything is fine for me. So I'll just click this run trigger option. Okay, so now we get this notification, right? So pop up build started on branch master. Let me click this show button. It will take me to the history, right? So it will show me like it's running. This is the some, random number that has been assigned to the build, and it will show you the trigger, then source code repositories, branch, and the latest commit, right? So this should be the latest commit of yours. Yeah. And I think, okay, it's failing at the deployment stage, but let me just go through. Yeah. So it does this Maven install, which will basically create the jar file and Docker image build. Yeah, you can see here, right? So Docker build -t, that gcr.io, and this is the project ID that we gave, and hello-spring boot. This is the uh, trigger name that it has picked up automatically, and just the commit ID. Okay, and it will push the Docker image to the image registry. So that also we can see. It has pushed the. It's like okay. I think it's not taking my email ID, but uh, okay. I think since I'm using free trial version, there might be some issues, but this is how it is happening. Uh, yeah. Okay, so let's revisit the pipeline it has run, right? So let's see like why it has failed. So before that, like we'll see like what command it has run, right? So it's running the kubectl command. So it's basically kubectl set image, the deployment and the deployment name, and the image ID, right? So I can see here there is one space present after the deployment slash the container name. Maybe that would be the issue. So, but yeah. So on this step, right? So you can see like it's running this command gcloud container clusters get credentials to fetch the kubeconfig file, and after that it will start deploying the applications. Basically this particular deployment yeah, it has deployed with the previous docker image. I think I can show it. Yeah, so this was successful, right? So you can see, right, deployments apps image has been updated. uh, yeah, so this is how we can deploy the applications. So using CloudBuild. If you have any doubts, please put it in the comment box. Okay, we'll try to clarify in this call. That's all about the CloudBuild. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rohit. Can you hear me?
Yes, Sankalp. Thank you so much.
Cool. So yeah, like it was a very amazing session. Thank you for like the informative content. So actually, we have a one question that is parked in the parking lot. So that is from Webhoff. No, sorry, that is from Abhijit. So is this same in AWS and Azure? So okay, so the question is, yeah, like probably he just meant to ask that do we have similar things for
Yeah.
AWS and in Azure? Yeah, just similar to cloud build. Yeah. So would you
Yes.
like to take
So
take that thing? Yeah.
the tool name is. tool name will be different in AWS and Azure. So in AWS we have code pipeline and code build, which is a like a different tool that's a managed service provided by AWS. And in Azure we have Azure DevOps, which is quite famous. You guys might have heard about it, right? So that's a CI/CD solution provided by Azure. And in GCP we have this cloud build. Also, I wanted to tell about cloud deploy, right? So recently they brought something called cloud deploy. Uh, I'm not sure if I have access to it, but uh, recently GCP had brought this cloud deploy service, which does deployment to the higher environments in the workflow. Right. So right now we can see Cloud Build is deploying only to the one environment, and we can't see the uh, deployment that is happening to the next environments in kind of pipeline flow or the workflow. So that cloud deploy will provide the advanced features. If you have any trial account or something, you guys can explore on that.
All right. Thank you so much, Rohit. So yeah, apart from that, I can't see there like any more questions over there. So anyway, so like I have dropped your LinkedIn account or profile, LinkedIn profile. So in case audience have any question, just feel free to reach out to Rohit over the LinkedIn. So yeah, with that being said, this brings me to the conclusion. So, yeah, so thank you once again, Rohit, for taking out time out of your busy schedule to make this happen. That too over the weekend. So, yeah, it's such a it's such a great honor to have you. And yeah, last but not the least. So, thank you everyone on the audience side to to just be with us till the very end. And yeah, have a great rest of the time. I mean, have a great Sunday. So yeah, all right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks, everyone.